Good morning, Dan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. I want listeners to be very excited about reading this book. And the reason why is because there's no belt or championship on the line. You are letting us into your mental octagon. And I just think that is such an incredible journey.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was definitely fun for me to do that.
What was it like for you to go through that journey? Because, I mean, that's stepping back into your past and reliving things that you had battles with.
Yeah, I think it wasn't very often that I kind of looked back and thought about everything I've accomplished and done in my life and some of the old stories and what got me to where I'm at right now and to be able to kind of not be forced but to look back in detail at certain things was kind of great. It kind of made me appreciate myself a little more, I guess. So, and I definitely have always appreciated the life I've had and been able to do and the experiences I've done. And I was just even more thankful for what I've been able to do after, kind of doing this book.
And the thing is, it's in your word. I mean, we've had all these articles that have been written by sports journalists, and we've read all these different things, but this is your story that you're relinquishing, the journey of you. And that's what makes it like, oh my God, I'm really going to get into these chapters.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's definitely my words, and there might be a few cuss words in there. Unfortunately, I do have a potty mouth sometimes.
That's what it's all about, man. I grew up in the state of Montana. When you're out there with the cattle and everything out there in Montana and the chickens, I mean, you just let things fly.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed writing that for sure.
Yeah. When it comes to the matches that you've been in, do you still play them in your mind? Because I'm a third dan in Taekwondo, and going to those championships, I still play those matches over and over in my head, thinking, what could I have done differently?
I don't beat myself up like that. I try to prepare the best I can. I go out there, and if sometimes you felt it flat or didn't quite do the right things that you wanted to do. And it bums you out that you lost. And I try to learn from those mistakes and not do them again. But, I can't change anything that's happened. So I don't typically beat myself up over things like that. And, I just make sure that, I try not to let that happen again and make sure that I do things a little bit different the next time. And, that's all you can do, and so that's kind of my philosophy and how I live my life.
The early days of the MMA, it wasn't as governed as it is today. Do you see the evolution, and how do you see it, growing into the future?
Yeah, it's tough to see how much it'll grow in the future. I've kind of lived and competed during the biggest growth period. I think from, I think my first UFC was UFC 17, but I fought, a year before that in Brazil as well when I first started, and it was a cool journey to kind of be a part of the evolution of the sport. And when I first started, there was no MMA coaches.
Right.
It was everybody had their own background that they were good at, and everybody tried to learn everything else, and it evolved into the sport of MMA. And now these young kids are starting out doing MMA instead of boxing or wrestling or kickboxing. They're kind of just doing MMA now. So, which is pretty cool to see. And I still believe wrestling's the best base to have, and it helps you out the most mentally and physically.
Well, what fascinates me is the fact that MMA, I mean, you're starting to see schools popping up, and then you don't go in there to learn karate or kung fu or even taekwondo. They're going in there to do MMA.
Yeah, I think MMA is by far the most practical of the martial arts. It's real. It's not, something that you learn and you can only do in a dojo, where it would be effective. Mm-hmm. It's it's a lot more real than any of the other martial arts. So, and that's why it's called mixed martial arts. It's a mixture of everything, and it's at the same time, it takes forever to learn everything.
Well, you're absolutely right about that when it comes to what's practical, because if you're in any kind of altercation, 20 seconds into it, it's going down to the ground. Oh, how's Taekwondo going to help me on that? And so that's why during my black belt test, I would always do different brick breaks from a push-up position, because trying to show people you've got to be strong on the ground, just as strong as you are on your feet.
Yeah, it definitely. You go everywhere in the sport. So, I mean, up, down, and weird positions as well, and trying to not be submitted at the same time. There's a lot to learn, and that's what was so enjoyable for me to do the sport, was just being able to learn new things almost every day. And even now when I'm coaching, I still learn new stuff and get better at the stuff that I've taught for years, and it's slowly getting better.
Speaking of teaching, my God, you got to be with Randy Couture. Oh, my God. I mean, you're talking about standing with a living legend.
Yeah, Randy and I we were training partners in wrestling before we started fighting, and we kind of decided to try it, and off we went.
Wow.
So it was Randy's been a great friend for a long time.
So when you have someone as close to you like Randy, because Nathan Ritchie was a person that I enjoyed grappling with, and the thing is that a lot of people don't understand the talking that takes place when you're on the floor. We don't hear a lot about that, but there is some bad mouthing going on, and it's like, figure it out, buddy, figure it out. What's your next move? Because I'm 10 steps ahead of you.
Yeah, I don't know. I never talked that much. I mean, sometimes, but it depends on the situation, but even in practice, it's kind of one of those things. You kind of knew what the other guy was thinking already, and hopefully, I know that we were great training partners to have for each other, and especially in wrestling, when we wrestle Greco-Roman, it's kind of hard to find good training partners for that. Right. So we definitely helped out each other quite a bit.
How much did life change when you made the decision to move up to Portland? Because, first, you are not afraid to talk about how incredible you are as a father.
Well, I'm sure I could have done that better too. But, I moved up there to really train full time with Randy to make a third Olympic team. And I fell a little bit short, but in that time we started fighting, and loved the sport of MMA after that. So I just kept on fighting.
I love the way that you call it a sport, because that's one of the things that we had to tangle with in Taekwondo, is that everybody says, oh, this is the martial art. It's a sport. We're here because it's a sport. But so many people in martial arts don't want to look at themselves as being in sports.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're in the martial art for. If you're not competing, you're just learning and wanting to, kind of have that at your disposal. I guess it's not a sport to you then, but, most of the martial arts have a competition level, and that's where it becomes a sport.
Getting ready for that match, we've seen the boxing movies, we've seen Wide World of Sports and things like that. We see the exercising, but mentally you've got to get your head into that game. What are some of your tricks to the trade?
Just always staying positive. You can never, let negative thoughts creep in. Right. Like, oh, he might do this to me, he might do that, he might do this. You can't really worry about what he's going to do. You kind of have to be educated what he likes to do, and kind of have a game plan to not do exactly what he's good at. But, you got to go out there and have your game plan and think about what you want to do to your opponent rather than the other way around. So, and that's a tough thing to do sometimes. And you think too much about what the guy could maybe do to you. And that's when nerves start taking over.
You know, it's almost like when I would find out who my next match was with, what I would do is I'd play like a game of coup, which Native Americans do. I just want to go talk to him for a second and just find out how he's breathing, if he's breathing from his stomach or he's breathing from his chest. Because if he's breathing from his stomach, I'm going to get in a big fight. And it's, in other words, it's going to be a tougher battle. But if I see his chest moving, that means I can wear him out.
I've never thought about that in that way, but yeah, I mean, there are guys that are definitely a lot more nervous looking, and that's always a good thing going into a fight with them.
What is it like to have the praises of Joe Rogan? I mean, because this is a man that really has put his life into making sure that the story of MMA is told in that great way that he does.
Yeah, just knowing Joe over the years and just seeing the evolution of the sport, and then he's always been involved in the sport. I feel like he probably knows more about the sport than almost anybody in the world, and including myself. I'm not up on every current fighter nowadays, right. But he's been involved at that level of having to know all the fighters and commentating about them. So I think he's definitely been a great thing to have as an ambassador for our sport.
Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself as a legend, or is it just a chapter in your book of life?
Yeah, I guess if I was, since I've written this book and kind of had to look back, I guess that's a good definition. But I hate calling myself that anything other than just a normal person.
Yeah.
I had a different type of job and I loved it, and and I was pretty good at it. So I felt like I accomplished a lot in the sport, and I think it's up to everybody else to figure out what to call me after that.
How did you deal with the traveling? Because, I mean, that's one of the things that we don't get to see, is that what you guys have to go through in order to get to that next match.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think because I grew up wrestling and competing and all over the world, and in wrestling, I would go to other places and train for weeks or months at a time. I spent a lot of time in Russia training in wrestling, and my longest trip was 4 months. And so I think I was used to the traveling already before I started fighting. But it's definitely something you got to get used to, and it kind of sucks, that part of it, but it's kind of cool to see other places in the world. It definitely makes you appreciate what we have here at home. I feel like more people need to get out into some of these other countries and see how well we have it here and be more appreciative.
Exactly. Right there is your TV special there, Dan. That's what you got to do. You got to take those cameras with you and say, okay, hey, I'm gonna take you for a walk. I've been to Russia. I'm going to show you what I've seen in Russia. And then we sit there and we watch it. I mean, because, talk about leadership there, dude.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I definitely, like I said, people need to get out and around the world a little bit and see how things are in the real world.
When you travel the world that you have, right away I'm thinking altitude. I mean, to go from altitude to altitude, how do you prepare your lungs for that? Because, if I were to go to Denver, Colorado right now, I would probably struggle because it's so high in the sky.
Well, I think I would now too, but I think being in such good shape for so long, I never noticed the altitude too much. And granted, where I grew up was, fairly decent altitude, like 3,500 feet, but I never noticed it. I was always in good shape and just able to push through certain things, and but nowadays, because I am out of shape, I don't train that much. I definitely notice walking up some stairs at high altitude.
So do you find yourself when people say you used to be this, you used to be that, you're going, no, I still am. It is a lifestyle. This is my life and I'm still living it.
I don't know. No, I definitely used to be in a lot better shape and but I'm still capable. I still have those skills.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it for quite as long nowadays, but uh, I don't know. I don't get offended by anything people say. So, I just know that I, for myself, would like to start working out a little better. I've been a little lazy the last year. So,
I always find it fascinating when we see the matches on TV, we see how brutal they can be, and then when we get the opportunity to share a conversation with you, it's like you're a gentle giant, and it's like that just blows my mind away on how you can become this machine. And then when it comes to releasing a book, it's like, hey, it happened, but I want you to learn from it.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just I've always been that way. When it's time to compete, I go out there, I get ready, I warm up, and when the warm up happens is when I get a little bit meaner, and and I know what it takes, what I need to do to go out there and compete, and even in wrestling, you do all the moves, you go out there and wrestle, but until you start getting a little bit meaner with how you do things and a little bit more emphasis on how to do it, that's when I really started winning a lot more and doing a lot better in the sport, just being a little bit more aggressive.
How do you convince your body that you still are very much in touch with it and love the body after you've been in a battle? Because, I mean, there were many times I'd come out of that in Taekwondo, a championship, and I was hurting so badly. And it's like the mind over the matter, and it's pain management. How do you deal with that?
I mean, it depends on how bad it is, but typically I don't know. It's just, I think I've been used to that my whole life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect you that much. Obviously, if it's something that's fairly bad, you just kind of do what doesn't hurt it, and then you keep training, and sometimes my styles have changed over the years based on injuries, and kind of stand a different way, or do a little bit different techniques instead, just because of injuries. I've definitely had to change up things because of injuries over the years.
Yep. Yeah, my own handwriting has changed over the years because of different injuries to my wrists and arms and things.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just one of those things that's part of it. But yeah, mentally, you just got to push through it.
Yeah. So with your relationship with Randy, we know that he does movies. Is he talking to you about turning this into a movie, or can you talk about that?
Well, he's not involved in talking about that. But I do have, some producers that have done some pretty big films in the past, wanting to do like a biopic or a limited series. I think it's maybe the talks are turning into more of a limited series based on the fact that it's hard to put in someone's life into 2 hours.
Yep.
So, and I don't know what a 2-hour movie would be on me, but it wouldn't barely touch the surface type of thing. So we'll see. I mean, I like I said, I didn't know it was all that exciting of a life I've done until I looked back and wrote this book, and thankfully I had a co-writer that helped me get through a lot of the memories that kind of resurfaced. So it was good to have somebody like that to put it down on paper.
Man, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Dan. I mean, you're right. How can we even sketch your life in what you put in this book in 20 minutes? So we've got to talk in the future again, sir.
Anytime, just reach out. I'm around.
Okay, guy. Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I'll do my best.